last week the show featured less than 20 minutes of wrestling. TNA Impact, less than 20 minutes of wrestling. We're going to talk about Don West and Mike today and that whole thing in just a little while. But before we do that, we are going to go to a new segment here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. We'd like to welcome Bill and Doug for the very first edition of Bill and Doug Uncut. Welcome to the show, guys.
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Not much.
First thing we're going to talk about is a little bit about Monday Night Raw, WWE, talk about their direction, and right now, who is a better heel right now in pro wrestling than Chris Jericho? That guy has run down legend after legend after legend, and he has completely changed his persona. I love the serious persona he's got going right now. And for me, it all leads to WrestleMania, and to me, there's only one guy that he can face for this to make sense. And you can call me, you can say I'm in denial, you can say whatever you want, but I think it's going to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. They took him off the poster. He was originally on the poster. I think they're trying to keep this as under wraps as possible, but I think it will be Chris Jericho versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 25, no doubt about it.
Austin over Hogan?
Yeah, because I think
I
think it's a Hogan was the money match, but Austin is the match we'd rather see because Austin Jericho has already happened and it's been a great match.
Well, we're from Houston, and I guarantee you most people that bought their tickets that are going to WrestleMania in Houston planned on seeing Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestle, especially when we heard he was going to the Hall of Fame. And if it doesn't happen, and especially the way they're building it, I just think it's going to be a huge disappointment. But, I mean, I don't 100% think it's going to happen, but to me it makes sense. And we are in the WWE, and they like to do things that make sense. So, I think it'll work.
Yeah, but, I mean, imagine they have all this build-up, and then it's Chris Jericho versus Jerry Lawler. Who cares? Who cares? Seriously. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I personally think it will be Steve Austin. I just, he's originally booked for Raw appearances. I think he was supposed to be on Raw last week, but they're coming to Texas for a couple of shows, so hopefully he will be on a Raw, and hopefully they'll start building this match. I hope it happens. But also, another thing I want to talk about, Randy Orton and Triple H. What a segment that was. Seriously, there's not a better feud in the WWE right now. Both of these guys are perfect at this stage in their careers. Triple H sometimes gets a little stale, but this is the perfect opportunity for him. They're telling the right story, and now that they cannot physically touch each other until WrestleMania, people are going to be craving to see this match.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's something that we've talked about here on the program before.
Philosophy.
Yeah, is they shouldn't touch each other until the match. And now that they're going to be, kind of around, they'll interact verbally with each other, but won't physically interact until the big show.
Right, and they did the same thing with, if you remember, Austin and Triple H before No Way Out of 2001, and that was a golden feud. So, I mean, I expect nothing less than the same from Randy Orton and Triple H, and I hope to God when we get there that Randy Orton does win that match and become champion. I think that will solidify Randy Orton's legacy in the WWE and make him a permanent main event guy.
For sure.
But let's go ahead and talk about some TNA. I mean, we've discussed Impact a little bit, on our YouTube page, but this last week was kind of the first time we had the opportunity to watch Impact in a while. And I must say, I did my ultimatum for TNA video, and I was really pissed off. I was really frustrated. I had a lot of things I wanted to get off my chest, and I'm still not overall happy with the TNA product. But some of the things that I saw as far as them building the X Division, doing the rough cut with the X Division, is hopefully I feel like they're going to go in a good direction here in the next month or two. But, you never know.
I personally think TNA is torn. I think that they marketed themselves at first towards the Smart Mark fans, and then when they got the bigger names, they're trying to get that WWE audience because, in my opinion, WWE is trying to re-educate the wrestling fan and trying to kill the Smart Mark. They're trying to have that Hulk Hogan era with John Cena, and I think that that's why TNA is going with these main eventers. But, Dixie sent out a letter saying, thank you for the fans, and we're going to help save the X Division. We're going to rejuvenate and all that. But then you release Sanjay Dutt and Petey Williams, which makes no sense whatsoever. And I know they didn't get released, but they didn't re-sign them. But they're two of the best guys that they had, in the X Division. So I don't know. I mean, who knows? If Abdul Bashir is what they think is going to help the X Division for that, he was X Division champion, I'm worried. I really am worried and concerned.
And honestly, I don't think the X Division rejuvenating the X Division isn't so much about having gimmick match after gimmick match. It's not so much about having a ladder match on Impact and a street fight on Impact, an Ultimate X on pay-per-view, a Terradome on pay-per-view. I think it's more about just the actual marketing. Educate people on what the X Division is about, have more in-ring promos with the X Division, make the title more important, and then just go out there and have a good match. That's all that matters. I think that's the one thing that TNA has gotten away from. They're just throwing out gimmick matches here, left, and right for the X Division, and I don't think that's what's going to get the fans behind it. I think it's more of a long-term thing. That's why they were behind it in the beginning, because you saw amazing match week after week on weekly pay-per-view in the Asylum.
Isn't this a good opportunity coming into Destination X, especially with the Ultimate X match, to do that reintroduction of the X Division and take advantage of some of those things you just suggested?
I personally think that they should build the Ultimate X up close to being the main event. I remember when it was Rhino and Jarrett, and then they did Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Christopher Daniels. They gave them the main event instead, and that match is legendary from Unbreakable. I think that I don't think they're doing the proper build-up to put that in the main event, but I think that's something that they should be looking into eventually, especially coming up with upcoming pay-per-views. Just put it in the main event. It's not like people are buying the pay-per-view in the first place, so it's worth a shot.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think they need to cut back on the amount of Ultimate X matches they do. The bottom line is the Ultimate X match is kind of overdone. So, and recently you've seen Ultimate X's that weren't half good. I remember, last year they had Team 3D and Jay Lethal and the whole Johnny Divine thing when they were trying to, take apart the X Division and they were trying to save the X Division. I thought it was horrible. Yep. But I feel like they always give it a shot and then usually just kind of scrape it after, a few tries. So hopefully, we saw an amazing match. I don't know if you guys saw this, but between Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, I believe it was their first pay-per-view of the year.
Yeah.
They've really, they still put out the effort, and that's exactly what the X Division needs. And like I said, I also think it comes down to advertising and promotion. You've got to advertise, you've got to promote your X Division, and I think they need to spend less time on guys that are already established, such as the Main Event Mafia guys, because people are already familiar with who they are. People aren't familiar necessarily with who Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin and Jay Lethal and all these guys are. You need to spend time and develop them and build them as stars, and then eventually people will see them that way.
But, Bill, when you look at the ratings from the last 2 weeks of TNA Impact, which have been not, of course, their best episodes, and they've been strong, what message does that send to TNA?
I don't know. I don't think it's so much about what rating they get 1 week and what rating they get the next week. I think it's more of what is their trend of ratings over a period of 6 months, I think they really do care about the fans. I think there's no question. Jarrett calls the fans his family. They're offering the Lockdown Ultimate fan interaction. Mick Foley's addressed the fans. Dixie Carter's addressed the fans. They've all thanked the fans. I think if you guys have been to a TNA Live event, you can notice that they really appreciate you buying the ticket and want to make you feel a part of the family, not just a part of the show. I think TNA, I don't know. Honestly, it does say a lot. They're marketing and touring in new areas, so I'm sure those viewers are tuning in. But, do I agree that big names draw? Absolutely. But do I think that Scott Steiner and Kevin Nash, guys who can no longer deliver in the ring, I don't think people are necessarily tuning in to see those guys.
Even though, again, with their biggest ratings coming in an empty arena match.
I know.
But at the same point, is it really people watching to see Sting and Kurt Angle face their empty arena match, or is it people wondering what the heck are these guys doing fighting with no fans? That's what I'm curious about. Is it really these people that are, oh, man, I love the Main Event Mafia, or is it just like, oh, they're Sting and then they're just tuning in just to see him? You know what I'm saying? I personally think that if they would set themselves up with something that brands them, they were wrestling, and that's what they should be right now, because that's what separates them from the WWE. Because the main reason that me and Bill stopped watching the WWE for the longest time was because it didn't matter how much you stacked that pay-per-view card. They were not going to give you 100% effort, and they were not going to deliver in the ring, and it happened time in and time out to the point where we started realizing this is crap.
Yep.
When we turned on TNA was delivering in the ring, and sometimes the storylines might not be the best or the writing might be terrible, but at the same point, when it comes to pay-per-view and you give those guys the chances to go, they will go, and that is what separates them from the WWE. And instead now it seems like they're trying to become more like the WWE, and I don't think that they know their identity anymore. And I think that's what they need to find out is they just need to brand themselves that we are wrestling. You will see something that you will not see from the WWE on our show.
Yep.
Speaking of the WWE, what are your thoughts on, I noticed that you had an interview segment from Jim Cornette on your YouTube page just a little while ago. Your thoughts on Christian's utilization in WWE so far?
And that's exactly what it is. It is mutilization. And I can't believe Christian Cage signed that contract. And I personally want to know if Christian knew going in when he put his name on it, pen in the paper, when he put his name on there and he said, okay, I'm going to be with you guys. I personally want to know if they said, look, we're just going to job you out for a while. And he was like, sure, that's fine. I personally think that he signed on to something and now he's stuck into something that he did not want to be a part of because there's no way he's got to be happy jobbing in Jack Swagger. Time out.
That was a good match. Last week, though, on ECW, they had a good match. Better than I thought they could pull off, especially with Swagger in there.
Yeah,
I think with Christian Cage, you're not going to have a problem with a good match, but the problem is that the guy's not in the right position. The guy should be right up there with Edge, in my opinion. I mean, and I think everybody thinks that. If you've been a fan of WWE for a long time and you've seen Christian and Edge, you know that, in my opinion, they're pretty equal to each other.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. Also, if one of my favorite points from the Jim Cornette interview was the fact that if Vince and the people in WWE Creative were smart, they would have booked Christian Cage as at least a top guy. That way, when the TNA guys' contracts come up, they're thinking, wow, Christian went back to the WWE. They gave him a shot. They put him in a really good position. Maybe I'll give that a shot. Maybe I'll give it a try. But instead, they're just burying him in the ground. Now, do you think any TNA guys want to go to the WWE now? I really doubt it.
And that's a TNA guy that has had a lot of experience. It's like eight-time Intercontinental Champion over there. Imagine just a Sanjay Dutt or something like that comes over there. You know what's going to happen? He's going to be a Braden Walker.
Yep, I agree.
You can join us, folks, on the Pro Wrestling Report phone lines, the number 276-3776 locally or 1-800-990-3776 all over the world. Again, 1-800-990-3776. We are live on ESPNMilwaukee.com. We are also live at PWRshow.com, where the chatmosphere is rolling right along.
Chatosphere.
What else do you have for us this week on the Pro Wrestling Report?
Let's think.
Ring of Honor pay-per-view in Houston. That's the one thing I want to touch base on just real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, Doug.
Go for it, Bill.
Damien, are you going to be down like on Friday? Are you going to go to any of the Ring of Honor shows?
Unfortunately, I will not be attending WrestleMania this year.
And it's something that Damien and I have kind of struggled over the last 2 months, trying to figure out how we're going to work this out. If you don't know, for those that are listening, Damien and I have done the last 3 WrestleManias together, and this, as much as I don't like him, I do enjoy spending a wrestling weekend with my brother from another mother, but we cannot make the show.
It's my annual vacation, and I've got some other commitments that weekend that just simply can't get out of, so unfortunately I can't go.
All right, but
We've got ROH house show on Friday. We've got ROH pay-per-view on Saturday. We've got Hall of Fame Saturday night, and then we're going to WrestleMania.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that. And, Friday night, Booker T is having that convention. You guys talk about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we did, and the names that have been recently pulled and speculation as to why.
How much crap is that? I mean, this guy is raising money for a charitable foundation in Houston, and the WWE is taking guys away from there on Friday night when they really don't have much going on. They've got access going on that whole week.
Right.
So they re-sign guys to go to their access so that they cannot participate in Booker T's charity fan fest that he's doing with a bunch of big names. I mean, granted, they're not going to get the TNA guys, but I just think it's really shady and classless of them to take away the guys that were scheduled.
Correct. If that's their intention, we completely agree. But you look at what's happening, and we talked about earlier, it seems as if there's a TNA-branded show happening under Booker T's PWG brand, which is awesome. But is it smarter? Yes. Is it smarter for TNA to actually brand that show as one of their shows and get that WrestleMania presence that they had last year?
And fill it with TNA talent.
Yep,
I agree. I mean, we've been to PWA shows before, and it's usually just the main event, and then after that you can get your autograph or your picture taken with them for an extra
and they've got some pretty talented guys at the PWA, and, I mean, you want to talk about fan interaction, dude. Booker T is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Yep. I mean, he is very courteous. I remember the Polaroid ran out of film, okay, and he got pissed. He was like, he's like, Charmel, what am I going to do? So he called all the fans back, that didn't get a good picture, and he took pictures of all of them over again. I mean, he's just such a nice, classy guy. And then he always has guests, and his students are very talented.
Yep. Bill and Doug, Uncut, the debut edition here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you again next week right here on this very program. We're going to take a time out, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, it's more on WrestleMania, more on TNA. We've got our VI3 and a heck of a lot more, including our Q&A, some of your emails coming up here on the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN and ESPNMilwaukee.com.